Hello, this is Pastor Jones. Wanted to spend about 5 minutes with you today. If you remember back a few weeks ago, for several of the devotions, I talked to you about great awakenings in history in which God moved mightily in various parts of America, bringing people to Christ and building His church. It is such fascinating reading, but more than that, it challenges our hearts to hunger, I pray, and thirst, I pray, for that type of move and happenings in God's church and in our country today. One of the individuals that was so impactful in the beginning of the church in America, in the Methodist Church especially, was Francis Asbury. I am amazed when I read about his life and the price that he paid to be used of God to impact the world of which he lived in that moment in time. Let me just read you a couple excerpts, and I wanted to challenge you today, and I want you to ask yourself, what kind of sacrifices are you making to make a difference? Are we anywhere near what this man has done? It said much of the drive for the enormous Methodist growth came from Asbury, who rose every morning at 4 o'clock. He taught himself Latin and Greek and Hebrew. His rule was they would read 100 pages of good literature every single day. He traveled over rough, trackless, dangerous wilderness at staggering danger to his own life. Beginning in 1798, it was his custom to make a complete circuit of all the vast distances reaching from Georgia to Maine and inland to Indiana. He never expected others to sacrifice, that he would not sacrifice himself to endeavor to impact and to reach people for Christ. He traveled constantly in his lifetime. He never married. He had no home. All that he owned, which was pathetically little, was his 2 saddlebags and the horse he rode on. It's estimated that in Asbury's life, he preached over 16,000 sermons. He ordained more than 4,000 preachers. He traveled on horseback until he was too old for that and traveled in carriage. Listen now, some 270,000 miles. He wore out 6 faithful horses. Before he died in 1816, he had also become one of the most best-known figures in all of America. Now, if a man like that could make such an enormous sacrifice, and because he did, had such an impact on the early beginnings of America, touched so many lives, won so many souls, and helped build God's church, shouldn't we ask ourselves today, what am I doing? What sacrifices am I making? How am I laying myself down for the kingdom of God? And how am I making a difference? Well, I got to tell you, as I looked at my own life, having read this, I'm thinking, my goodness, in all that I do, I can't come near what this man did. And I know it's a different day and a different age, and I understand all of that. But nevertheless, I also realize this, both for myself and for you, there's definitely room for you and I to make greater sacrifices. You know why? The cost is great. Not just on my part and yours to sacrifice, but so many people are outside of God's kingdom. So many people are lost on that broad pathway to hell. And you know what? The question is for you, all of us, are we willing to make whatever sacrifice is needed to close the gap, to reach people, and to make the difference? Oh, God, give us a great awakening in this 21st century, but help every one of us understand it took men like a Francis Asbury making these great sacrifices to see it happen, and it will come at no less a price today until us, the church, step up and begin to sacrifice and believe God to make it happen. I hope I've given you something to think about today. This is Pastor Jones saying God bless until I see you next time.